Now for your final project, there are a bunch of ideas that I'm going to give you, and you guys can choose to use these for your final project or pick something that you might want to do on your own. I'll give you the footage as well. This is all up in Google Drive. I posted it to my own personal Google Drive because my one here at work is completely full. But if you look at Google Drive, which I think I sent you guys all the links to it, but just in case I haven't, here is what it will look like. This is called simulation footage. So there's all these MP4 files, and they're 4K MP4 files. They're pretty huge. They're pretty big. You can always crush them down inside of After Effects or Premiere. And if we go to date last modified, you should see the videos here. Simulation backgrounds right there. So all the videos that I'm showing you are here. They're not named, however. I will probably have to go through and rename these, but you can kind of pick through and double click and see the first frame and sort of tell what's going on here. Sort of a YouTube preview there. So kind of take a look and see which one floats your boat. They're pretty good quality, and they're handheld too. There's a slight bit of movement in there, so it might be something you could take into After Effects and track if you like. I'm also going to go through and pull out the first frame of every, or sort of a central frame for every one, so you can do what I'm about to do inside of After Effects. So all I did inside of After Effects was Premiere. So I made a new project for Premiere, and I just dropped the clip in here, dropped the clip in the timeline. I picked a frame somewhere in the middle that was representative of the entirety. So I'm not moving the camera around except in a few shots very much. A lot of these are just kind of semi-lockdown shots, but we'll track these in After Effects, so it won't be that big of a deal. And you can have like a bunch of smoke coming out of this chunk out of here. You can build a little bit of a vent and have the smoke coming out of the vent and try to get it to match with what you've got going on here. And maybe if you want to do a little rotoscoping, you can rotoscope out some parts of this, the foreground here at least maybe, and get it to kind of fit in there nicely. So anyway, I've done this, and I've just done a little sampling, a little snapshot, export frame, just Control-Shift-E. You can simply export out the frame of that footage. So that's all I'm going to do for all these guys. So what you can do is you can pull the footage out and then eventually put it back into After Effects and comp it back in. So let's make a new project in Houdini, and I'm going to save this out into that same project folder I had before, which is our simulations project. Okay, cool. So this is a footage for After Effects folder there. I'm just going to save this smoke example. O1, I guess. Yeah, sure, O1. It's good. And now we can start putting the background image in. So you need to make a new camera first. So go to No Cam, create a new camera, and we can call this one Shot Cam, as I like to do. And inside of here, if you go to View, you can place a background image in the Shot Cam. So if I click on background image, this little button right there, use the $HIP format because it goes to wherever my file is being saved right now. Here's footage for After Effects. Double click in there. So it's $HIP/footage for After Effects. Turn off sequences and just click that one image. Hit accept. And it should just clip in right automatically. Now the camera that I'm using here has an 11mm lens, but it's on a crop sensor. So it's take the millimeter and double it. So it's basically a 22mm lens. So focal length here should be 22. And that gives you roughly pretty close to what we're going to be looking for. And just going to give you a sense of where things are in the scene. What I'm going to do is I'm going to drop a box right here in the corner, and that's going to be the corner of this building. So if I drop a box right there, and hit enter, and that's the kind of the corner of that building right there. Let's put this corner way up there. So I'm going to have my origin sort of be right there. Move it over. I should dive inside of it. And I'm going to take the size, scale this side down, using this move tool there. Edit stop there. There you go. So I'll bring this like that. And its size here is 1. So I'm going to make the center 0.5. So it just rests perfectly on top of that grid. Should. Oh, I can take this zero out the top level transform here. So now 1.5 should set it right on top of that grid. And I'm just going to set this spring right on top, right in that corner. And just that's going to be the base, the bottom corner of this building. If I take the top and pull it up like this and pull the front edge this way, you can sort of define that right-hand side. It doesn't line up perfectly vertically here because we're getting a little bit of distortion. It's a rectilinear lens, so the distortion isn't perfect, but it's going to give us a good idea of how the smoke is going to come out of this wall, essentially. I can take this box, and this is going to be a wall section. And I'm going to take this center here, and I'll right-click and copy those parameters. I'm going to put those into a transform sub. Paste that into there. And here, I'm going to translate and paste values in there. So it's going to double up the values. So go back to the wall section. I can just zero out these guys. It goes back to where its original position was. So that transform is the transform for this wall here. I can copy and paste this transform over here and move it over. Now I've got a copy for that the wall over there. And if I merge them back together again, those guys there and merge them to that one merge node. I've got two walls, each with its own transform. So this one can be left wall, and this could be right wall. Hopefully you're going to get an idea that you can use Houdini to really organize your scene nicely like this. So this wall section is centered in space. The size is a certain size, but everything else is going to be transformed. So this transform is extracted out, and I'm not. This isn't the right wall isn't inheriting the transform from the beginning here. It's just it's separate from this transform there. So it's kind of a nice way of keeping things organized. I'm going to translate on the z-axis negatively, so to put it kind of back in the corner like that. I can even take another one and copy and paste it, and just put it back into there. This one could be a angle wall. Cool. This one we can rotate to roughly that angle, and we'll translate only on the x and the z-axis. Rotate. And there you go. So I can do that. And I can also non-uniform scale this too. So I can z-scale this up to kind of match over there. Cool. I'll take the original wall section and make the height a little bit different. Say the size and here it is now 7. And the center should be I'm going to zero out this here, because they're all in the same ground plane. Here too. It's going to drop them all down. We're going to use the translate Y, because they all have the same translate Y. I might as well put that up here. So the center will be 3.5, which is half of 305, 3.5. So it'll be halfway down, resting it right on the ground. Cool. So that kind of gives you a little bit of an idea of the scene. I'm going to unlock this camera. And if I move away, you can see I've sort of rebuilt my little scene there. So it kind of gives you something that the simulation's smoke can kind of work up against. If I want the smoke to come in through this hallway, it can bounce off those guys. I can take the whole thing and merge them together and make them into a single collision object, static object here. So go to the top level and make that a static object. There we go. The static object is anything within that box object here. So whatever comes in the merge, there's the box object. Whatever comes up here is going to be incorporated into the collision object, which is fantastic. Wow, some new stuff in this new collision source. There's a VDB in here. It's a VDB object. Cool. So I can add more stuff in there if I want to. Totally fine. I can put another little box over here. And we'll just incorporate that into the merge. And this guy could be a collision object. I could go back over to this guy. Go back again. There we go. Go back to my view, my camera, and hit W, you can get a wireframe view. You can move this over here, shrink it way down, and make a static object that my smoke will kind of ripple and collide against. Now this is not lining up perfectly, so you may have to cheat this to get it to work, which is totally fine. There's no rotate on this guy, so you have to go to a transform rotate, or just to get the top edge up here. Use the transform tool. Go to point mode. Grab those points there. T for transform, and it puts a little edit stop in there. We just kind of edit this over. Turn wireframe back off again. Also, the tricky thing is you need to make sure that this is actually all in the right location. So I'm going to take the box, transform, I'm going to push it out on the x-axis. There we go. It's tricky to figure out where this whole thing kind of belongs, so edit, box, use the move tool. Wireframe again. So I want to keep it on this plane here. This is really the wall plane. Hit W again. I'm just going to pull it this way. Up again. That's sort of where it needs to be. It's a little tricky. You'll get used to it. So we're going to smoke to interact with this. This is a great way of doing that. Also grab all of the vertices and move them all around. And hit W to turn wireframe off and on. That's a pretty good collision object there. So I want the smoke to collide with that. That should work out pretty well. It takes a little practice. Definitely, it's not really intuitive. I'm going to double click on the move tool here in this edit mode and go to operation parameters, and under handle dialog I'll switch this from component to world. Or object would work too, but I want this lining up with the world. I'm going to pull this down a little bit like that, so they have this sort of bevel here that would more accurately sort of reflect what the smoke's going to be hitting up against. Hit W again to go back to shader mode, and we should be pretty good. So if we emit the smoke from this location, it should kind of collide and bounce around this object. Because again, it's part of this collision system. There. It's the VDB collider. Clash collision source. This is a volumetric collision source that's handled in the division size in collision, but if we want to really up the collision quality, go to the dot network, go to the static solver. It's actually the box object up here. And down under collision, there's an RBD solver. This is division size. We're going to be using the volume RBD solver because we're making the volumes collide with this. So division size of 0.06. Be careful with these numbers because you can really crank them up. You can overcrank them. Let's go 0.03. That's pretty good. So that will be a wall that this smoke will collide and roll up against and curl up against. It really has an effect on how the final quality. Okay. Cool, so we got the scene set up. Let's just start to render. We'll start to put the lighting in. We'll just kind of use a skylight. I think we'll be able to fake this pretty closely. And yeah, we'll go with that. We'll turn off the visibility of this box object, which I'm going to call buildings. And cool, go from there.